alive.
We are alive. Hello.
We're still alive. We're hanging on in here.
I'm Joy Ellis. And
I'm Kerry Buchanan. And we're going to chat this evening about all sorts of things, crime writing and all sorts of other stuff too.
We are.
Should we start off? Right, Joy, I love your books. You know that already about me. And you're the reason that I applied to Joffy Books and sent my first story in there. Your books are really rooted in the landscape that you live in Lincolnshire. And could you just tell us how you came to start writing and how the landscape affects your writing?
Oh, well, you're quite right. I mean, the landscape up here is just, you either love it or hate it. I swear it's Marmite County. It's beautiful in its openness, and the skies. You've got these wonderful, wonderful skies, sunsets, sunrises, clouds of every formation. Literally, you can turn 360 degrees and you're seeing black clouds over there, and you're thinking, gosh, I wish I'd put my raincoat on. And you look over there and it's sunshine. It's just such a wonderful sort of vista. We moved up here in 2000. And one of the sort of first times, a little village, nice little village, wandered out and one evening, and as we were walking down the back lanes, just out onto the fens, onto the fields, a mist came down, and it was just so beautiful.
Oh.
But it was eerie. It was really quite creepy too. And I thought, oh yes, what a place to set a murder.
Oh yeah.
And I've been thinking books, and I thought about, let's do something that's crime orientated, because my partner was a police officer. So
that's handy to have.
I've got an in-house consultant.
Oh, that's so lucky. Yes.
And really, that's how it started. It just sort of emanated from there.
When did you start writing, Joy? How long ago?
Oh, probably about 20 years ago, but only in sort of, I wasn't thinking of big novels at the time. I tried some short stories.
Yes.
I got one published, which I was actually over the moon about. And it just sort of kind of escalated, really. Once we were settled here, I thought, oh no, we can do this. But of course, it doesn't happen when you think it will.
No.
And then all the rejection slips started coming.
Oh, yes, they do.
Yes, and so that's really sort of how it all started.
Oh, that's wonderful.
How about you?
Yes, well, I started writing in 2014. I'd never written anything since English at school before that, and I didn't even do English A-level. I only did O-level, so we were talking probably a gap of maybe 40 years before 35 years anyway, before I started writing, since I'd done any sort of education at all. And my father was diagnosed with dementia, and I found that I couldn't retreat into books. I've always hidden in books, hidden away from the real world by reading stories, and it wasn't enough, so I started writing stories instead. Yeah. And I wrote a novel that had been rattling around in my head for an awful long time. And it was like turning on a tap, Joy. I don't know if you were the same, but as soon as I started writing, I couldn't stop.
All-consuming.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. You just live with your characters the whole time.
And it's quite strange you should say about, you would hide in books. People read for escapism.
They do.
I write for escapism.
Yes, I'm exactly.
I think we've all got things going on in our lives that perhaps, like you with your dad and that. It's you don't need to be with that all the time. And it's lovely to have somewhere else to go without moving out of your office. So it's, it's just...
In fact, my dad, when I was a little girl, he taught me to read when I was very, very young, before school age. Yeah. And he taught me to read by telling me that if I learned to read these books, that I could go to different countries and different kingdoms, and I could meet princesses and dragons, and I could go to outer space, and I could go anywhere I wanted inside the cover of a book. And he told me, he doesn't even remember telling me any of that now, but he's the one who sparked that imagination when I was a tiny little girl. And
my dad was the same, really. He was somebody who used to read, but he was actually partially sighted. He had great trouble reading. But he always read to me. I didn't realise at the time what an effort it was for him. He would get all these various books of different things, wonderful stories, and I'd hear them so many times, because we didn't have a lot of money, so we had the same books read over and over again. But I would know it word for word, and my mum would say she'd hate it when he missed a word out, or he tried to hurry a bit. So I just go, no, Daddy, no.
Couldn't get away with it. No, my dad read to me as well. He wasn't partially sighted, but he was profoundly deaf, and but he could. Well, he became deaf through my childhood. He was slightly deaf when I was a child, and he became eventually profoundly deaf. But it's interesting, both of them had a disability like that.
Yes, yeah, but both so enthusiastic, and
absolutely,
they really sort of give a taste for what you can. And books have been with me all my life. I mean, my favourite place was the library.
Oh, totally. I spent all my childhood. I used to pass the library walking home from school. I could never pass the door. I had to detour in.
Yeah,
I read my way through the children's section.
Cedar Avenue, I can see it now in Sidcup in Kent, right down the bottom next to the woods. So we used to go stream jumping in the woods, and then everybody else would go home, and I'd go in the library. I used to love it.
Yes, they're just fantastic places. They still are magical places. I still walk into a library even now, and they've changed so much over the years, but I could still walk into a library and smell that smell and just feel, yes, this is home.
Oh, yes, yeah, I agree with you.
Yes, totally. Yes, because I grew up near Leeds, like near where Kaz comes from, and so my library was in a little village called Garforth, and I just couldn't resist that place. It was wonderful, and the librarian was very good to a snotty wee brat. He used to try and climb up to the highest shelves to get the books because I'd read all the ones I could reach for them.
I used to get all the not naughty books, believe me, but I possibly shouldn't be reading at the age I was. I can recall Dennis Wheatley getting To the Devil a Daughter and thinking, wow. And I knew they wouldn't let me have it, so I used to take it off the shelf, get under one of the tables, and sit there and read to my heart's content for as long as till they found me and took it out.
That reminds me of me revising for my O levels. I used to have a history book open and a Jane Austen book inside it. So whenever my mum walked past, there was I revising history or maths or whatever it was.
Do you like the classics?
I do love the classics. I go back and reread them. What about yourself?
I never liked them as a child, but it's quite strange because Audible has opened up a whole new world for me, because I can do all the jobs I've got to do, but and I couldn't read a book at the same time. But I can just listen to Audible, and I'm listening to all the things I missed out on. I'm listening to children's books that I loved and just want to hear again. And I just finished all the John Wyndhams because I loved them as a kid.
I was going to say John Wyndham. He was my introduction to science fiction. Wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, me too. Absolutely. I absolutely loved it. I still do.
Oh, totally. Yes. You were talking the other day about the Day of the Triffids, I remember.
Oh, yes. Exactly. It's strange, isn't it, when you look back and you think, where did this start? And you start to put it together.
I think it starts with reading. And are you eclectic like I am? I mean, I will read everything from the classics through to modern science fiction, through historical romance, up to literary fiction, everything. I devour books. Are you the same?
More or less. I mean, I do struggle with some genres just a little more than others. But when I look at my bookshelves, I obviously am quite an eclectic mix of books on there. Yes, it does vary tremendously, and I can really enjoy something that I never dreamed I would.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll get a book and think, well, somebody else has told me this is a brilliant book to read, and I'm thinking, yeah, right. But and I got a lot out of it.
Yes,
it's quite odd. Yes.
I think I was less fussy as well when I was younger. I think these days, if I feel like the clock is ticking a bit. So when I open a book, if I don't get engaged with it within the first few pages, I don't always finish it. Whereas I could never have walked away from a book unfinished in my 20s, for example. Have you found that as well, or is that just something?
Yeah, I've never left a book in my life, I don't think. But I don't read much anymore. Because I spend so much time writing.
Oh, well, that's true.
I'm reading, but I'm reading what I wrote. And I just spend all my spare time is with words. And sadly, I listen to the books, certainly, because, as I say, there's things you just got to do. The ironing doesn't get done on its own. And you can do it with, at the minute I'm listening to The Woman in White. for about the third time.
I listened to that fairly recently as well. Wilkie Collins. Yes, I listened to that as well.
I love that. And the Moonstone. I love that.
Oh, I love the Moonstone. And Moonstone's my favourite,
But
definitely.
in the meantime, I've thrown in a couple of Dickens.
Yes.
And what's the one I've got? I've got In Cold Blood, which I read many years ago, and it froze the life out of me. The realism of it. Well, I mean, it was a real story built on a real happening, but that the intense, you know. So I'm listening to it now to see if it does the same again.
I wonder if it's better or worse as an audible rather than a written, because I'm never quite sure listening to something and somebody else putting all the expressions on whether it's worse or better on a disturbing book like that. Than
yeah, I'm going to find out.
Yes, fine. Tell me. Just looking, we've actually got some questions. Somebody has said, "What were your favourite books as a child?" So, what about you? Do you want to go first?
As a child, well, it's got to be Enid Blyton. I mean, I loved all the famous Five and Secret Seven. I mean, I was very much into mysteries ever since I was teeny weeny. I think even my sort of baby books have probably got a murder in them somewhere along the line. But it's got to be Enid Blyton for a kick-off.
Yes, I would agree with you on that one. I read loved the Enid Blytons growing up, but also my dad introduced me to the ancient classics, Homer and the Odyssey.
Oh yes.
And the library had a children's version of those. You know, just like dumbed down very slightly to make it quite a little bit easier to read. I remember reading those and devouring, and then moving on to the adult one very quickly. And I loved those growing up as well.
I love Norse mythology.
See, I never got.
They did a lot of children's things for that, and I thought that was fascinating.
Yes.
And sort of a god called Loki being mischief. You know, that was just.
Oh, really appealed to you, I can imagine, because you're a mischief. Let's see what else we've got. We've got another question saying, somebody I said, "I know that feeling. I founded a book group with my dad. Definitely got a love of reading from my parents." That's lovely to see.
Yes,
and
isn't it?
Megan Barstow says, "As a kid, I loved reading and still do."
Hello.
My kids are now getting into reading. Oh, it's great. I love to hear children reading. It just makes me so happy.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Yes. And Laura Hamilton says, "I think my dad was glad when I could read for myself, as I was always catching him out if he tried to miss a page during." That's just like your story during a bedtime story. Yes.
Oh, that's really nice.
Isn't that lovely? Yes. I don't know, because it's odd. So what age were you? I mean, maybe this is too personal a question. What sort of age roughly were you when you started writing?
Well, I did write, as you did, you know, from school time, really. You know, in school, the one class I loved was English, you know.
Oh, me too, yeah.
And as soon as they said, you know, it's composition time, you know, there was a few groans and I'm going, yes!
You know, exactly, I was the same.
And I think I've always written in a way. I had a friend whose mother was very ill and she was a bit down with it because it was going on for rather a long while. And this lass worked with me and she said, "My mum's really low." She said, "Well, I want something to cheer her up." So I used to write a few pages, or sometimes about half a dozen pages, of an ongoing story that she could take home for her. And it was total rubbish. I mean, it was just funny. It was just all comedy. Just to
cheer her up. Just something to give her a lift and cheer her up.
It was one day something happened in the world. And everyone went to sleep. And when they woke up, they could talk to the animals. And the guy who was the sort of superhero through this, called Rory, he had a Cocker Spaniel and he called it Fluffy. Well, when he woke up and he could talk to Fluffy, you should hear what Fluffy told him for calling him Fluffy, when all his mates were called Jason and Tyson and he was called Fluffy.
Rocky or something.
He was not a happy bunny. And it went on with stupid
I love
things.
it.
But it just cheered them up. I found them the other day. They must be 40 odd years old.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Because they'd done all the rounds of the family and they came back to me. So I got.
You should publish them. You should get them. Jasper would definitely publish them for you, I'm sure.
I'm not too sure. One of the characters is Ursula, a fruit bat that lived in the airing cupboard.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Oh, that's fabulous. So we've got somebody else. Oh, Laura's come back. She said, Laura Hamilton, "The narrator is key with audiobooks. I got completely put off John le Carré due to the narrator of my grandpa's talking books irritating me." I agree with you on this, Laura. Weirdly, my younger brother loves his books. the first introduction I ever had to an Audible or a talking book was, I can't even remember who the author was, because it was narrated by such a bad narrator that we put it on for a long drive, myself and my husband. And the idea was it was a real action story, a real kind of thriller. And I thought, this will keep us both intrigued on a long drive. And honestly, he nearly put us to sleep. He had the most boring voice you've ever heard. And it put me off audiobooks for years. So you're right, narrator can make or break a story.
I mean, we did actually have one of the series we asked for a new narrator.
Yes.
Because the reviews that were coming in were all about narration, and we thought, you can't do that to a book. So
No, you can't.
it was sad, but we had to change the.
It's a shame, but if it's not working, it's not working. My books are going to audiobook at the moment, and we've had one audition back, one actor that the company would quite like to have used. And I listened to it, and as soon as I listened to it, I thought, this isn't right. This is not right at all for the books. Now, he was absolutely brilliant narrator, but not for that set of books. I would have listened to other books from him and gladly and really enjoyed it, but it just wasn't right for that particular story. And luckily, Joffrey Books agreed. So we're still waiting to see who they come up with now for the next batch.
Because I've got Richard Armitage from Jack.
Oh, I know. I am so jealous. And you've had meal with him, haven't you? You've been out and eaten with him.
Yeah, we have conversed close. Yes, he came here, and then he came here to see the Fens and to chat about. He's so passionate about what he does. He's such a good artist that he wants to know what I want, which is very rare, I think.
I'm so jealous. He's just wonderful. I love him as an actor. Completely.
He's a lovely man too. So, anybody out there who thinks, I wonder if he's what he seems, he is. He's really, really nice. Love him.
Oh, that's so good to know.
So,
he does come across as a very sort of straightforward sort of guy. When you see him, everything he acts, you can sort of see that he's a very open sort of guy. And
his interviews are great as well, because he's got a terrific sense of humour. So, he's really good. He's really funny.
I think the first time I really came across him and actually noticed who he was when he played Thorin in The Hobbit. And, and that deep singing voice, I was like, oh. I don't think it was his best role, but boy, oh boy, I enjoyed him.
Yes, he's got such a following. I'm rather lucky for my books.
Somebody says, Megan says, hi, Joy, very early. If Samantha Brownlee, you're online, you'll probably tell me to get back to bed. Oh dear, Megan, what time is it where you are, Megan? It must be super early. And somebody else says, if your books are on audio, do you get to choose the narrator? Okay.
Well, you get a selection. They send you sort of clips of, so you can listen to voices. And you can say which one of the, if there's one you particularly like or don't like. But initially, obviously, not being sort of high-powered authors, we really have to go with what they'll give us. I was very lucky with the Fen series with a very, very nice narrator, but she didn't do my character as I imagined her, and it shocked me. When her speaking voice is beautiful, and I thought, yes, she could do this, because I thought she'd use more of her voice for my main character, but she didn't. She gave her an accent that she never had in my head. But a lot of people love her, and they're all saying how well she narrates. So I backed right off, and I love her as a person. I've spoken to her lots of times, and she's such a nice girl. I really do wish her well with them.
Yes,
but it was just
a shock.
My partner can't listen to them. She said, that is not Nikki Galino. I cannot listen to that voice.
And I haven't listened to any of the Nikki Galino ones. I'm going to have to go back and listen to them now. I've read them all, but I haven't listened to them on audiobooks, so I have to go back and listen to those.
I have to say, as they've gone on, they've got a lot better as well. And I mean, the last one I thoroughly enjoyed. I always listen to the last one, so I know where I am for the next book. Just to remind me, because I don't know about you, but once a book's written,
totally. Yes, we were talking about this the other evening. I'm exactly the same. In fact, as soon as I've written the end, and my head has moved on to the next story, and I cannot remember. And then when it goes out to the beta readers and comes back and they say, oh, I really love this section, I have to really think hard. What the heck happened in that section? Oh, yes, I remember.
I know you get questions come through, and somebody will say, "Oh, in book 3," I think, "Hang on a minute, I've got book 37."
I can't remember which one was book 3. I wonder if it's a way to getting older or something, because I'm just exactly the same. Well, look, we've got a couple of other questions. Somebody says, Kerry, if Joffrey want audiobook ARC listeners for your books, I'd be happy to volunteer. Oh, thank you. I haven't got your name on here, but thank you, whoever that was. And Megan says it's 4:18 a.m. on Monday morning here in Tasmania, Australia. Wow. Oh, Megan. And she says she read my books. Thank you so much. And Maggie Johnson says, I have to confess to getting rather cross with you over the last couple of Jackman and Evans books.
Oh, dear.
Why did the audiobooks come out so long before the Kindle paperback editions? Oh, goodness.
Because they are Audible exclusives. They're actually written for Audible.
Right.
So they take them for 4 months before we're allowed to publish them. So, at the minute that we're allowed, they're out there, and we do put them on pre-order early. But they are actually written for Audible, and they always were. So, it's just I'm sorry that they take so long. But there is one written now. It's with Richard for recording, so it shouldn't be too long before.
Oh, good.
That long, is it?
That's super exciting. Oh, that's wonderful. So we got really quite distracted there, didn't we? Trying to think of all the questions we thought we might ask each other.
Oh, yes, I haven't got to any of those yet.
We haven't really, have we?
I was going to ask you something. Yes. I know that you were a veterinary surgeon.
I was, yes.
I do wonder, you saw sort of people at their best and their worst, really.
Oh, yes.
I know what I'm like in the vets with my dogs. I'm a complete wreck.
No, I'm the same.
But, I just wondered if this sort of spills over into your writing when you're sort of thinking about people and reactions and emotions. Did you learn a lot through what you did?
I think it does, yes, because you do see people, as you said, at their best and at their worst, and in the depths of grief, and then in high alt, when they brought their bitch in for a cesarean section and they suddenly handed a handful of squeaking puppies or something, and so you see people super happy and obviously deep in grief as well. And you see people having to face decisions about things like, can I afford to have this life-saving surgery or whatever done on my animal, which is horrible. I hate that sort of thing. Yeah. One of the reasons I quit, really, I think, because having to put it down to money terms just went against everything I believe in, really. But there was no choice because, drugs have to be paid for, everything has to be done. But I found it very hard. So yes, it does definitely. I've always been a people watcher. I write at my best. I write best in a cafe with background buzz and people going around, and I'll be writing a character, maybe just a small character, a sort of a bit character, and I'll think I need a mannerism, something that just makes this particular character either a pattern of speech or something physical that they do. And I'll just look around the cafe and somebody will go in and we'll go like this. I'll go, oh, that's what I want. That's perfect. I have a teenage lad and he's going to be picking his nose and he's not going to care. And that will go down onto the page. So, yes. Or I overhear, I'm a terrible eavesdropper. Awful. Never, ever sit near me if you see me typing in a cafe because I will be earwigging. I'll hear little patterns of speech and things like that. And I don't take the words, but I take the patterns out of the speech. And I think that's actually quite an interesting thing there. So, yeah, I'm sure you do something similar.
Yeah, you see body language sometimes with people, and you might not know exactly what they're saying, but what they mean.
Yes, exactly. Like you see a young couple opposite, and you can see that she's kind of all blocking, and he's kind of leaning across the table, and you think, "Oh, that's not working."
It's not going to work.
I feel like going across and just give up, mate. It's not going to work.
I don't know what I want to ask you. We sort of briefly touched on it when we were just talking the other day. You get imposter syndrome as well, don't you?
Totally. I think. Is there a writer who doesn't?
Isn't it just the most awful thing?
It's terrible. You can't believe in yourself. You can't believe in your books. You can't believe in your ability. I still don't, and I'm sure you probably the same. And you've how many books under your belt now?
27, I think.
27.
I think I'm on 27 or on 28. I can't remember now.
Still.
Yeah, everyone that goes out, I think somebody's going to tumble me.
Yes, exactly.
Me, I'm not. And all this stuff comes in on the internet and on social media, and you think, are they reading what I wrote? Are you sure about it?
No, I'm exactly the same. And I think imposter syndrome can be crippling.
Oh,
I think if we didn't love writing so much. I mean, I don't write to be successful. I write because I couldn't not write.
no,
And it's such a bonus if people actually read the books, and then it's a bigger bonus if people actually enjoy the books. But if that wasn't my motivation, if my motivation was to be successful, I don't think I could do it, because I'd be always second
that's not
guessing.
the aim, is it? That's not.
No.
I think I think COVID, to be honest, brought home to me in a huge way the power of reading, because I had some letters and some emails. I've got one or two that I've printed off and put on my board behind me, because they really pull you up and make you think. Yeah, there was a lass who was she was a nurse in a hospital, and she was on a COVID ward, and her only time was 20-minute break, and she went to the Fens and Nikki Galena for 20 minutes, and she said that kept me going to be able to go back and face what I've got to face again. And she was thanking me so much, and I just cried. Really would. It's just so humbling, because I'm thinking, here's me tapping away on the old computer, sometimes a glass of wine in one hand, sometimes a cup of tea, whatever. It's, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. You don't expect that incredible knock-on effect for somebody in Australia, that was.
Yes.
The other side of the world, has such an emotional attachment to your books.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's absolutely wonderful.
So heartwarming, and it really makes writing worthwhile.
It does. It does. Yes. I think to bring joy or bring comfort in some way to somebody somewhere is just the best gift anybody.
Absolutely.
Give or receive,
Yeah.
It made me laugh about when you're saying about having a glass of wine or a cup of tea. Are you like me? Because I make myself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and I put it next to my desk. I can't put it on the desk because I have too many cats and dogs and they just spill it on the keyboard. So it has to go on a table next to the desk. So if it falls, it doesn't do any harm. And 2 or 3 hours later, I go to drink it thinking I've been sitting there for 2 minutes, and I go drink it. Oh, it's got a skin on it. It's icy cold.
Oh, yes. Or I just bring it up and start drinking it.
Yes. I sometimes stick it in the microwave if it's really bad.
I've done that, yeah.
Sometimes several times, because I put it back and still forget it's there. Time just is so elastic when you're writing. You've no idea what's going on.
How do you find you manage your home life along with the writing? Is it because you've got a lot on in your life, and you sail, don't you?
Yes, we were sailing today. In fact, it's lucky I made it back.
Yes, I did see you out on the briny.
Yeah.
Will she do it?
A few hours ago, I was anchored off the Copen Island, north of Northern Ireland there, and it's a bird sanctuary, and all there is birds and seals, and it's just bliss. I wouldn't have come back at all if it hadn't been for this evening. It's so good. But managing time, yes, that's a tricky one. I got very good when I was still being taxi driver all the time when I started writing in 2014. All 3 children were still at school, and I just used to have a laptop with me all the time, and if I was sitting waiting for them for anything at all, I would just open the laptop and just pick up where I left off and start typing. Except my memory's so bad, I always had to reread the last bit to remind myself where I was. Yes, but you just get used to. It's like people who can sleep for just a few minutes at a time. I can write for just a few minutes at a time, and it's much nicer when you've got a block. But it is. I'm not a regular. Are you a regular person? Do you have a time for writing?
I do write early in the morning. I'm much clearer early when I first wake up. Usually I sort of put pajamas, wander into the office, start writing. I'm really sort of that's my best time. Yes. And the earlier I can start, the better. But of course, the older I get, the less I want to get up early. But I try to get up by 6, every morning, and try and get in and get some writing done. It used to be a lot earlier because I'm much better then, and I'm fine very late at night. But in the middle of the day, it's just one just turns to soup completely. There's nothing there.
I'm the opposite. I'm a middle of the day person, and I am a morning person in terms of I can get up and be active and things in the morning. But as the day goes, in the middle of the day, I kind of peak, and then it drops off in the evening. And by the end of the evening, I'm good for nothing. I just want to collapse and melt into the sofa. I don't want to do anything. So I definitely couldn't write. But yes, I would say middle of the day is my most productive time. I spend most of the morning organising things, just like moving things around at the desk, checking social media, and then before I know it, it's nearly lunchtime. I think I better start writing, and then.
And there's quite a lot of social media to keep up with as well. And then the last thing you want is to miss something or someone.
I'm very nosy. I can't bear to miss anything.
I try to answer everybody, and it does get, you get sort of almost paranoid.
You do. Yes, you're talking about it.
I'm waiting for something.
Let's just have a look and see what. So Maggie Johnson replied, this is going back to the audiobooks, I think. I can hardly wait now. So she's very happy about that. Somebody else says, what are you both working on at the moment? So, right. Do you want to go first? What are you working on at the moment?
At the minute, I'm writing another Nikki Galina Fen series. But the next one to come out is going to be a Matt Ballard, which will be out in June. And that's called A Trick of the Night. And he's quite different, Matt Ballard. He's been a private detective, ex-police officer. So that's the next one out, and I really enjoyed writing that one.
Good.
So I hope it reflects, in the reading.
It will.
How about you?
I think there is something different about the Matt Ballard series, I find. He feels, in fact, I couldn't quite know how you do it, because I know the Nikki Galina and the Jackman, there's a bit of overlap between them.
Yes.
They talk about each other. But Matt Ballard seems to be much more self-contained to me, and a very different sort of character to either Jackman or Galina.
I tried to bring an awful lot of the other characters in, especially, sort of the villains and the psychopaths or whatever else. I come very much from their point of view. It's very often a story about them, and Matt Ballard just kind of gets involved, really. So they're more very individual stories, and none of them really connect.
I really enjoyed the Matt Ballard series. I must go. I think I'm slightly behind. I need to do some catching up on that one. But and what am I working on at the moment? I am working on book 5. Book 4, which has a working title of Long Game, is with the publishers at the moment. So hopefully that'll be coming out sometime later this year. And book 5, I made a start on, and I'm probably about maybe a tenth of the way through it now. So you've got that one on there. Thank you very much. Are you actually going to read it?
As I said, I was a bit early sitting down. I just read the first few pages and thought, that's that. I've got to read this.
That's good. That you've picked the sailing one.
Yes, I'm thinking immediately that first opening to the prologue. What is he doing?
Oh, somebody said, Maggie Johnson has said 13 Nikki Galina, 8 Jackman and Evans, 4 Matt Ballard, with 1 due out in June. So you're somebody who really knows about your writing there. That's wonderful. And Megan Barstow says, I have read all your books, Joy, and my favourite would still be Jackman and Evans, but I'm starting to like Matt Ballard, and I have pre-ordered your new book in June. So that's wonderful.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you very much. I've got a standalone as well. I've got there's one called Guide Star, which is a standalone.
I don't think I've read that one.
Now that's just a complete. That was a different story altogether. And I said to Jesper, would you do this for me? It's something I'd wanted to write. Would you let me do it? It's not a police procedure, although it's about a police officer who gets injured on duty, and it's about her life, how she comes back from serious injury. So, and that one actually led on to some of the characters that are in the Jackman books. So
wonderful.
So we've got that one out there.
I'm going to have to
another one, actually. There's a novella that's been written specifically for Audible. So that one will be coming out later as well. That's completely different.
Look forward to it.
So, yes, we're spreading our wings here. It's late in life, but there you go.
It's never too late. It's never ever too late. I keep telling writers that, that so many writers who say to me, I think I'm too old to start this. And I go, you're not. The one thing you can do that it doesn't really matter. In fact, I actually think the older you are when you come to it, the more life experience, there's more of a tapestry behind you that you can draw on.
Absolutely.
And I think it must be much harder for young people to write interesting books because they don't have the mileage behind them. And I'm not saying they can't do it, because they certainly can. There's some fantastic young writers out there.
Yeah.
But I just think when you're older, you've just so much more to draw on, because you've been through so much and seen so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, Maggie says she counted Guide Star with the Jacqueline Evans books, as Marie has a cameo appearance in it. You've definitely found an expert on your books there. Can I ask you about your animals and your hobbies? Because I associate you so strongly, as well as Lincolnshire, I associate you so strongly with spaniels, with dogs. Can you talk about
at the minute I've got 5. I've got 4 Springers and 1 little Spanish Breton rescue dog, but she looks like a mini Springer. She's exactly the same colour as the liver and white, and I've got 1 black and white. He's called Jasper.
I'm sure Jasper's very flattered. Just for everybody who doesn't know, we're talking about Jasper Joffe, who owns and started off Joffe Books.
And then that Springer was named after him, and he loved it, so that's all right. We're good with Jasper.
That's okay.
He is the naughtiest dog I've ever owned.
Why does that not surprise me?
Exactly. and human Jasper's very proud of that fact.
Oh, good.
But I've had Springers for about 40 years, I suppose.
Wow.
I just adore their natures. I just love them. I mean, everyone is special. Everyone is different. But I do have 1 old boy at the moment. He's 12 and a half. He's my Woody. And you get a special dog that's extra special.
Yes.
That's Woody. Sometimes you just got a connection with an animal, haven't you? And you don't even have to talk to it, and it knows what exactly, And that's my Woods, and I know he's got arthritis in as many joints as I have. He's not a wild boy really, but he makes the effort. And all of a sudden he's gone deaf. I mean, we lost his brother in last December, which was heartbreaking.
Yes, I remember that. That was very sad.
But Woody, he's always around. Yes, he's upside down. Yes, yes, they're scattered around the office.
Yes, I've got one asleep down just next to me here as well, curled up in her bed.
But I adore dogs. I always have.
Can I tell you a story about Springer Spaniel that I saw as a vet once? And the owner brought the dog in for just a checkup. It wasn't even anything sick or anything. And I listened to its chest. And I listened again, and the dog had a heartbeat as slow as a human's. Now, dogs' heart rates are much faster than a human, and this one was boom, boom, boom. And I'm going to have to check this dog over, because I've never known a heart rate so slow. I can't find anything wrong, but it's just really unusual. And he just laughed. He said, "Aye, that's because this dog does nothing but run. He's the fittest dog you'll ever find." He was a farmer. And he had a huge farm, these massive big fields, where they take out all the hedges, and they've got like 100-acre fields.
Yes.
And he said, as he was ploughing, the tractor was going up and down, and the dog was circling the tractor the whole time, all the time, at a gallop. And he said, that's what that dog does. And every so often I make him go the other way so he doesn't wear out his joint. And that dog did that all the time. It's the fittest dog I've ever seen. That was a Springer Spaniel.
Oh, I just adore them, really do. I mean, I love all dogs, but we've also got one called Rory, and we've now rehomed his mum, because he was, the breeding bitch they wanted it rehomed, and we've got mum now, so that's lovely.
I remember you getting her. Yes,
she's a real softie.
She's probably so glad now to have landed on her feet with a proper home. No more litters of puppies.
No more litters. No, she's come to a home now where she can relax.
Oh, she'll love that. What a lovely way. And I can't imagine a nicer home than with you two, honestly.
Oh, bless you. We do curse them sometimes when they tear down the stairs ahead of you and nearly trip you up. Why do you want to get up? It's 2 a.m. in the morning. Okay. But no, I wouldn't be without him. House is just dead without dogs in it.
Oh yes, I love it. I love having animals around.
Obviously, I'm not a great cat person, because I think I told you once before, I'm terrified of birds, especially dead ones. If a cat, I actually gave Nikki Galina one of my traits there, because she's also terrified of dead birds. I can't look at one. I can't. I'm in the next county if one was brought in the house. I mean, it's just I'm off.
You
So
just don't
I
want to.
can't really get on too well with cats.
No, I can
I
understand.
had one
Yes.
lovely cat, and but I think he thought he was a dog, so he got on brilliantly. Really,
We've got one like that. He was born on the farm and abandoned, and our two dogs pretty much brought him up, and he thinks he's a dog. We've got one like that too, a cat.
oh, it's wonderful. I mean, he would retrieve. You could throw something and he'd bring it back. He's really cool. It was a lot better than the dog, I tell you.
Yeah, all our cats go walking with us. We're on a farm here, and we walk through the woods and through the fields, and half the cats and the dog all come. Used to be two dogs, but we sadly lost one earlier this year.
Oh, yes, I know.
They would all go. Yes, we all lost dogs. You, me, and Jill all around about the same time. It was very sad. But they would, all the cats and the dog would all come through with us, and they'd run on ahead, and then they'd stop and wait at every sort of turning to see which way are we going, and then once they knew which fork we were taking, they'd be off ahead again. It's hilarious. It's like the Pied Piper with animals all around you doing it.
Can I ask you, because you travel a lot, and with your sailing and that, is there somewhere you'd love to go that you've never been?
New Zealand.
Really? Yeah.
I haven't actually travelled that much.
Have you not?
Really? No, not really. We've only been to a few places. My husband's travelled much more than I have. He's been all over the world as an academic,
Yes.
but I never got to go with him because I was home with the children.
Oh, cool.
No, I haven't travelled a huge amount, a bit around Europe, but I've never been to America, for example, or Australia. But I would love to go to Australia, New Zealand.
I'd like to go to New Zealand as well. I actually was going to emigrate to New Zealand when I was 17 or 18, but they put it up and it was more than £30 and I didn't have it. I had a job all lined up because I was a florist, and I got a job in a lovely flower shop in Dunedin, and it was all going to happen. And I just, in the end, I couldn't afford.
Didn't have enough money.
30 to something like 60, I think, and I couldn't do it. So my mother was thrilled, absolutely delighted.
You didn't go? Yes, I'm sure. Yeah. Funny enough, my parents emigrated to Australia before I was born, unfortunately. And my dad loved it there. My mother hated it, and they did come back after a few years. Unfortunately, they didn't stay, because otherwise we probably would never have met. I would have been Australia now.
Gosh, yes.
But no. So no, New Zealand would be the place I would love to go.
Yeah, that sounds nice. Yeah.
Yes. I don't see us sailing there, mind you.
No.
I don't think I have that many years left in me.
Don't. I can't believe, it was my birthday in March, and I thought, I can't be that old. I cannot. Yeah, up here, everything is just as I always was, and I still try to do all the things I've done in my life. And I can't understand why I can't do them.
Exactly. What age are you in your head? Because I think everybody's an age in their head that they think they are. What age are you in your head?
I grew up quite late. I don't think I was a rounded person till I was well into my 30s, to be honest.
Yeah. So is that the age you are in your head, in your 30s?
I think I'm probably 35.
Because I think I'm in my early 20s. I was doing so much in my early 20s, and that was when I really felt I was finding my wings in my early 20s. I was rowing for the university national championships, all sorts of sporty stuff going on. And
I think I found my wings, but I flew in the wrong direction. Yes, we won't go into past, will we?
Oh dear.
It all gives grist to the mill when you're writing them.
It is, though, isn't it? Everything is. Can we talk a bit about writing? Can we talk a bit, because we've drifted really badly, about our the way we write? Because I don't know. Do you plan your novels, or do you? No, me neither.
Organic, totally organic. I write chapter 1. And then,
you're a gardener, not an architect. I'm the same.
Yeah, exactly, and it just kind of, I give it to the characters. And then we take it from there. Oh, a cup of tea's just arrived.
Oh, look at you. Here.
Wonderful.
I'll take a cup of tea and raise you a glass of wine.
Yes, no, totally. I've got an idea, but that's it, really. Jackie and I chat over sort of, what do you think of this? Or, just all you need is that sort of core idea.
It is.
And the whole book can come into it.
Yes, because I love to hear you say that, because I do the same. I put the characters in a situation. The
Yeah,
situation often is what triggers it for me, and then I put them in that situation, and then they're the ones who react, and they're the ones who drive it forward.
exactly.
And do you often find, because sometimes maybe it's because I'm way, way, way behind you on this pathway towards being a really successful novelist. I hope I ever get there, but
I,
I sometimes find I go down blind alleys and have to backtrack. Do you
yeah,
find that too?
I do. I
Yes,
mean, I used to perhaps more than I do now. But
I think it needs to
saying
get
that,
better.
this last one, I put so many strands into it. I decided I
Trying to
wanted
pull them all back
I
in
wanted
again.
to test everyone, but I was testing myself. I thought, no, I think you've overdone it, dear.
How do you keep track of things as you go? How do you keep? Because I know you and I both have struggled with our memories. How do you keep track of all these different strands as you go? Do you keep notes,
I've
or
got
how
a
do you?
large whiteboard behind me, and by the time it's finished, it is full of characters and little clues and things. But I have
Yeah,
to read back all the time. I cannot, I
no,
cannot
I'm the same.
retain everything.
I'm
Um,
exactly.
and if there's a lot going on, as there is
Mhm.
actually with us at the moment, we've got quite a lot going on at home.
Yes.
And it really does, you can tell it in your writing. It's not the
Mm.
actual creative writing, it's the continuity.
It is the
And I
continuity.
go back
Yes.
and think, why did I call him Ian? His name is Trevor. And there's all sorts of, I think you just said this about this character, and a chapter ago you said the complete opposite. I have to go back to sort it out. It doesn't always flow. Well,
No.
sometimes it does. I can write a whole book and have no problems. But another
No.
one, I think, I really do need to get my head in gear for this.
Yes. Do you find some books are born more difficultly? Sorry, that's really badly phrased. Some books are harder births than others, because I find some of my books just write themselves, or seem to.
Yes,
Other books, it's like pulling teeth.
yes, indeed.
Yes, that's good.
I've got three
Makes me
people
feel
who
better.
read them when I've finished, and I pass them on, and that the day when they go out, I am absolutely in bits, because I think this is the one they're going to come back and say, this is crap.
Terrible. Yes. For me, that was Deadly Shores. That was for Deadly Shores, because Knife Edge, I was so surprised that anybody wanted to publish it, and then shocked that anybody wanted to read it, that I think I was in a state of shock throughout. And then Small Bones came out quite soon afterwards, and that one wrote itself. That one was just, I think I wrote that in 2 or 3 months, very, very fast, and it just seemed to flow into the page. But Deadly Shores, I was convinced that Joffrey Books were going to reject it because it was so bad. Because
You can't help it. It's
no,
back to imposter syndrome. You just think I'm not. Oh,
absolutely, absolutely, yes. And yet, people who have read all three have said that's their favourite. So obviously, other people's perception is not the same as mine, which is really reassuring.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You need that reassurance, otherwise, I think you'd give up.
Oh, I
You
think you
write it for
do.
yourself, and you wouldn't dare send anything out.
No, I think of myself as a sensitive wee creature who needs to be told all the time that I'm actually a really good writer.
Well, I've only
I
read
never
about
get
5 pages, and I thought it was brilliant. So keep going, Kerry.
it. That's good. That's a huge compliment. Thank you. And you know how much I love your writing, because I've told
Oh,
you many times how much I love your writing
yeah.
and your characters.
I'm thinking, is she deluded?
No, I'm definitely not. And thousands and millions of readers would agree with me on that one.
Oh dear. Oh, what a lovely, lovely game we're playing here, isn't it?
Fun. I can't believe people are actually listening to us waffling on like this. It's brilliant. I'm really enjoying it. Yeah. So you're in the middle of another book at the moment. Then when's this one going to be finished? Do you think? How far through it are you at the
I'm
moment?
exactly halfway through.
Oh, nice. You're ahead of
But
me.
as I say, we've got quite a lot going on, and things
Mm,
needed to be. I need my time to be in several different places at the moment. So
mm,
I have. I said to Jasper, I've slowed down a bit. It's not. I'm not interested or anything. It's just there's a lot to contend with, and once we sorted things out, I'm sure everything. I'll be back on top
mm.
form. He said, "Well, hang on a minute. We've got one Jackman from you. We've got
Not so.
novella, for Audible. We've got the Beware the not Beware the Past, the Matt Ballard series. You've got one of those coming out. Except you're halfway through Nicky Green. I don't think you've quite slowed down.
You're not exactly slowing down. You just think you are.
I feel I am, and they do take quite a long while to come out.
Yes.
You know, to get through the editing process now.
Mm.
I mean, when we
Yeah.
first started, there was so few of us. You know, they were out in no time. But
yeah, I even while I've been with them, I've noticed that there's a slowdown with that.
there are a lot more. I mean, Joffrey is just, you know,
It's huge. Yeah,
so exciting for Joffrey. I mean, just to say that, you know, they are I think they're the most brilliant publisher because
so do I.
Yeah, they're just different in a very different way. Jasper is passionate about, you know, he was an artist. You know, he was a very well-known artist.
Yes.
And he's known what it's like to be on the breadline. And he really appreciates the work that the authors do. And he will always ask your opinion. You know, it's not a case of, you know, you will do it this way. There's no formula. He doesn't like putting deadlines on us. He wants to know that what we want out of things. He was saying the other day, you know, some of the authors would like awards. So, you know, he's now entering people in for awards. Because he said, you know, it means a lot to some, others are not interested. So he wants to do the right thing for everybody.
Yes, he does. They do, and they're very understanding. Last year, I went through a very difficult time with family. My father was dementia got a lot worse, and we had to put him into a nursing home because we couldn't keep him safe. And I was absolutely devastated because I felt I'd let him down. I promised my mum I would never do that, and there I was doing it because it's the only thing I could do really at the time. And then somebody very close to me was diagnosed with cancer as well, life-threatening cancer. And I was going through an awful lot last year in 2021, and I remember emailing Emma, who would be my managing editor, and Emma, and I just said, look, all this is happening at the moment, and I just don't even know whether I'm coming or going. And she was just so supportive, and Jasper was so supportive, and it's a wonderful company to work for.
Absolutely. I just feel so lucky.
We are.
We're really fortunate.
I'm extra lucky because I had you to ask. Because when they offered me a contract, I messaged you and said, is this a good move? Shall I do this? And you came back and said, absolutely, it's a really good publishing company. And I have never regretted for 1 second. They were the only publisher I sent my manuscript to.
Yeah.
I didn't send it anywhere else. And I'm so glad that they gave me that offer.
I mean, I couldn't say a word against them. I really couldn't.
We talk a lot about the Coffee family, don't we?
Yeah, exactly.
It's really just like one big family. All the authors, we chat together. We have.
How many places could you name where all the authors get together and natter and?
Absolutely. You know, and every time there's a launch, like I had a launch last week. Every time there's a launch, everybody comes and joins in, and all the other authors and all the readers and all the beta readers all come on there, and all the ARC readers.
It's so supportive.
It's a wonderful community. I'm very happy that we're part of it. I don't think the big publishers, the traditional publishers, well, I know a lot of people who are published by big name traditional publishers, and they do not have what we have.
No, they don't.
Far rather have what we have.
You're expected to do so much that takes you away from the writing. You know, totally. It is, you know, we could get on with the writing and write what we want to write. All he wants is that the book goes out the best it could possibly be. And what more could you ask?
Exactly, and the editing team are fantastic. Yeah. The editing team are so good. Good. Somebody says, "Loving this chat. You have 7 minutes." Seriously only 7 minutes? We've only been talking for 5 minutes. I knew this would happen.
Oh dear.
We haven't covered half the stuff we were planning to cover.
No, I did a quick look down the list to see if there's anything I really should. Oh, I don't know. We've done a fair bit. We've talked a fair bit.
We've covered quite a lot of
stuff. Do you have an aim with the writing? Is there something that you would really love to get out of it? You know, some people would love to see a book get an award and get sort of a. You know,
I used to think that I would like that. I used to think that would be what I would like. But and I know in the book, Knife Edge is up for a couple of awards. We've been up for a couple of awards. It's been shortlisted. But I find that I'm actually not that worried about it. I think it would be. I don't think there's anything else I want really. Yes, a few more sales to be in the bestsellers list would be lovely to see. Yeah. You know, to be a bestseller would be absolutely incredible. But
I think that's what it's about, isn't it? As well, just seeing it going up, the numbers just sort of going up is wonderful.
Yeah. And I'm very happy. I am. I'm just incredibly contented, which is really, I'm doing something I absolutely love to do, and working for a company that are just fantastic people to work with and for.
Totally.
And I don't think I really do. What about you? Because you've sort of met most of these. I mean, you've won prizes and you've.
I've never won an award. I've been shortlisted. I've been right up in the last sort of 4 for an Audie, which I would have loved to have got an Audie, mainly for Richard, because I think it would have been a really super thing if we both got an Audie. That would be
incredible.
I know, it's lovely. I don't think anybody would want to turn down something like that. But
if I got an award, I'd be delighted. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely. It's all part and parcel of it, isn't it? And it's
yes, it is.
It's just a sort of acceptance of what you're doing. But
it is. Yes, I suppose that's true. Actually, yeah.
It's just I think the best thing of all are the readers and what they say to you.
Totally.
If you could get anything out of it, it's some of the letters you get.
Oh yes, yes. I get people messaging
sometimes, and she'll see me snuffle, snort. Oh no, she said, you haven't had another one, have you? I'll go, read this.
I think you're absolutely spot on there. I just love the fact that somebody is enjoying my book and reading something that I have written and getting pleasure out of it. It just gives me such a buzz, such a wonderful thing to have. And then when they tell you about it, it's double the buzz.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have people message me that I was at school with, and haven't seen in 40 years. Yeah. And they said, I just read your books. And I'm like, whoa, seriously?
I went to have my jab, and I went in, and you have to go up to a young lady and she'll take all your details. And I was all on my own. I was in my trekkie bottoms and the sweatshirt top and that, and just stood there. And she said, name? And I said, Joy Ellis. And she said, oh, she said, you've got the name of my favourite author. And I said, I am your favourite author.
That must have been incredible.
I was in stitches, absolute stitches.
That must have been incredible. It really must. What an experience. Oh, Joy, it has been such an absolute pleasure talking to you.
The hour was just flown by. I was really there,
I haven't got my glasses on, which means everything is a blur, because if I put my glasses on, everything reflects and it looks terrible. So I can't really see anything very well, but I'm squinting at my clock up in the corner. I think we have about 3 minutes to.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I do hope everybody's enjoyed hearing us burble away.
We have a few comments on here. Somebody says, I think we said that, loving this chat. Somebody says, to be honest, I can listen to you both for another hour. We can continue. And somebody said, thank you both, that was very interesting. And Sam Brownlee says, I've loved every minute of this, thank you. And Megan says, Kerry and Joy, it's been wonderful being up so early to listen to you both. This is like your worst ever alarm clock, really, isn't it, Megan? And can't wait to read some more books from you both. Thank you. And Laura Hamilton, brilliant chat. Thank you. The hour absolutely flew. It did for us too.
It did, absolutely. I was thinking, what are we going to talk about?
Yes, I told you this would happen.
Yes, when the screen goes blank, they've had enough of us.
So it's more likely to have to tell us to stop talking at the end of the hour. No, it's been an absolute pleasure, and you've always been a lovely person, as well as being an incredibly talented writer.
Gosh!
One last question. Can I ask you very quickly? Is Jackie one of your readers? Is she one of your first readers?
Oh yes, yeah, because she knows all the judicial side of things. She knows,
of course, yes, she's
procedural. She'll, and the time she said to me that wouldn't happen. You've got to change that. It's got to be right, and you can't get everything off of Vera. You really can't.
Or Shetland. No, Fraser, my husband, is one of my first readers as well, and he's got a great eye for detail. He doesn't know an awful lot about the police procedures, but he's got a great eye for detail, and he's really good at picking up.
That's so important, and it means such a lot as well. It really does.
It really does, yes.
Well, Kerry, I do wish you all the best with your series. I think it's going to do fantastically. I really do. And I love what I read earlier, so I'm going to. I hope you'll keep on.
Thank you very, very much, Joy. It's been, and I just please keep writing, because we will always keep reading, all of us.
We will, until the old fingers seize up, and then we'll use one of those
Yes, voice thingies. Yes.
I could actually, because I kind of work through the keyboard.
I'm the same. I tried because I have a friend who writes that. We're going to go over time, aren't we?
Yeah.
I have a friend who writes like that. He writes with the speech to typing, whatever it's called, software, and he churns out books like there's no tomorrow. And I actually tried, and I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't have that mindset that the keyboard is what is
Exactly.
works for
Me too. So we're stuffed if our fingers go.
Oh yes, the arthritic fingers fairly throb by the end of the day.
Well, we're going to have to say goodbye and thank you to everyone who's...
Goodbye, it's 8 o'clock. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much. And thank you to UK Crime Book Club for being an amazing, amazing Facebook group of people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
It's been just great. Thank you for everything and for putting us on here and letting us talk.